Hello, and thank you for taking the time to listen to my podcast. Well, it's actually a video podcast. I appreciate your time, and if you'd like to subscribe, please do so below or share the message with your friends. Again, thank you very much. Okay, let's get started. Poverty and the Law of Attraction by Gus Michaels. Poverty and the living conditions of millions is unfortunately not making the same impact as it had before. Who can forget the Rwandan refugee massacre during President Clinton's tenure, or the displacement of millions and the massacre of people during the Bosnian crisis? Going further back in history, in the 80s for example, the Biafran refugee crisis, we were bombarded daily by the news of the Nigerian civil war and the Biafran refugees. This tragedy started in 1967, when the head of the eastern region declared an independent Republic of Biafra. After initial military gains, the Biafran forces were decimated. 1 million civilians had died in fighting and from famine. The photographs of starving children with huge, distended stomachs were disturbing and heart-rending. It horrified people around the world. So why is there poverty? The causes are numerous, including a lack of individual responsibility, a lack of proper resources, callous government attitudes, and indifference by many to the plight of our fellow human beings, exploitation by people and businesses with power and influence, or some combination of these and other factors. In most countries, inequality, the gap between the rich and the poor, is ever widening. Many feel that high levels of inequality is affecting social cohesion and is leading to increasing crime and violence. Consider the following facts. 1 billion children live in poverty, and according to UNICEF, 22,000 die each day. 805 million people do not have enough to eat daily. 1.3 billion people live on less than $1.25 a day. According to Oxfam, it would take $60 billion per year to end global poverty. Another estimate by the World Bank put the figure closer to $200 billion. Whatever figure you choose to believe, poverty and the living conditions of many is a concern for us all. Poverty is traditionally measured by the very basic cost in money needed to survive daily. This is about $1.92 per day, according to the World Bank estimate. Extreme poverty, a condition whereby an individual lacks the opportunity to make meaningful choices that will sustainably improve his or her life, has been falling since the 1970s. There is, however, dissatisfaction in the lives of many below the poverty line. Living conditions and hopelessness of their situation breeds more of the same. Giving financial assistance is not enough. Education on the proper use of mental faculties, how to think, will go a long way in eradicating lack and poverty attitudes. The state of our thinking. We live in ignorance of our true potential as divine beings. The law of attraction is clear on this fact. What you think about daily will manifest in your life. How do you then begin to assimilate the words with the conditions that are endemic in the poverty-stricken places of the world? Do we blame the poor for thinking poverty, lack and hardship? Of course not. When you are living in poverty and the living condition is dire, this trumps any other thoughts. They believe they are caught in the poverty trap and live in ignorance of their true potential. Outside conditions and circumstances rule their thinking. They believe they are powerless, and so they are. poverty and the solution. Poverty and the lack thereof can be eradicated, but we need a change of mindset. We've been brought up believing there is lack, that life is hard, there is only so much to go around, some will miss out, you will always have poor people. The sayings have infiltrated and taken hold of our minds and lives. These thoughts were hammered in by our caregivers who did not know any better. Our education system, the religious fraternity, and the daily diet of TV, smart devices and radio, putting deep roots into our subconscious mind. We assume the world is hostile and we have to be strong to survive the daily grind of life. This is the state of our world at the present time, but we can change this paradigm. Understanding ourselves first is the beginning. The law of attraction. Is the law of attraction relevant or real? Consider for a moment this thought. You have used it countless times, from getting the girl or the man of your dreams to achieving your accolades in school and university. Of course, you did not call it the law of attraction. You probably called it hard work or just doing what everyone else was doing to achieve your goal. You did this unconsciously without realizing the power within you. If you are now reading this article, pause for a moment and realize the universe has endless possibilities. You are a part of it, so open your mind. You can do so much more. Think about what you want. Believe implicitly you are getting what you want. Receive in your mind what you want. Educating adults to value their thinking is a big step in the right direction. It is not going to be easy. We have to get rid of our calcified thoughts, the negative ones we grew up with, and reprogram our thinking. We are thinking beings, and our minds defines who we are. A chaotic mind results in a chaotic lifestyle. An ordered mind results in an orderly life. Cause and effect. This is a critical, important skill that is almost never taught. The expectation is you will somehow pick it up on the way. Poverty in the West. Does poverty exist in countries like the USA or Europe? You would assume that it has no place in these societies. Wealth is in abundance and they do have stable democratic governments. Many have a social net that captures those less able to look after themselves, providing help and support. Unfortunately, the facts tell a different story. Poverty exists in all countries of the world. And here is an excerpt from the Washington Post. 40 million Americans live in poverty. Approximately 20 million live in deep poverty. 1.5 million Americans live in extreme poverty. The poor, unfortunately, has become more of an inconvenient truth. And I quote from the Washington Post again. With welfare reform in 1996, poor single parents with children now have a lifetime limit of 5 years of assistance and mandatory work requirements. Some states require fingerprinting or drug testing of applicants, which effectively criminalizes them without cause. The obstacles of getting on welfare are formidable. The benefits meager. The number of families on welfare have declined from 4.6 million in 1996 to 1.1 million this year. The decline of welfare rolls has not meant a decline in poverty. It is definitely a sad state of affairs when drug testing for the poor is a prerequisite for getting government help. It shows a lack of sympathy, respect for human rights, and an unrealistic, deliberate, obfuscating government state. Divine beings. Many do not understand the ramification of their thoughts. We are divine and children of the divine. We are not born of sin, as some have led us to believe. That is yet another yoke or burden amongst the many to make us feel guilty and unworthy about ourselves. It is placed in our minds as a cage around our divinity by religious institution for power and control. I now take you back to the parables of Jesus Christ, who taught us all about the law of attraction. Be ye therefore perfect, as your Father which is in heaven is perfect. Now, if humanity is fatally flawed, why would Jesus say that you can achieve the perfection of the divine intelligence that created the universe by saying that deity is the Father of all? It follows that we are all equally the sons and daughters of God. There are no exclusionary notions in this quote. No one is left out of the equation. Jesus does not say, try to be perfect. He says, be perfect. In conclusion, this has been another interesting journey. There are still more to learn about poverty and the state of our minds. I would encourage you to do your research. Your mind is the doorway to riches in abundance. I leave you with a quote from Dr. Edwin Bowers. The most potent force in the universe is the influence of the subconscious mind. The proper training of the correlation between subliminal and the objective faculties is the open sesame that unlocks the riches of all storehouses. The faculty of remembering, and with remembering there follows natural reflections, vision, knowledge, culture, and all that tends to make of man a god. Dr. Edwin F. Bowers. I would very much like to know what you think. Please leave a comment below. Thank you.